they had something in your newsletter.
What did we have in our newsletter for Atlassian this week?
If I can find it, let's see. Jira service management pricing and stuff. And so I wanted to ask kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
they
So,
decided to shift some features over to some different plans and,
yeah. So yeah,
what's
not
behind
only
the
did we
new.
have a price increase, and I probably want to shout out to some friends of ours that have a Atlassian specific YouTube channel where they went into depth about this. But um, depending on the product you're using, what tier you're using, the cloud pricing for everything went up at Atlassian. The low end was about 5 to 6%, but the high end was closer to 20%. But it depends on how many users you had, what tier you were at, whether you're on standard, premium, or enterprise, and which product. But then the sneaky bit that they added is there were some features in standard that they took away. And so if you were on standard and you relied on those features, you need to go to premium if you're going to stay with an Atlassian product. And I would say the vast majority of customers are going to do that. Um, but it is a sneaky way. I kind of equate it to shrinkflation.
Okay.
It's like with shrinkflation, you're paying the same price for a smaller amount of product. Well, they didn't necessarily shrink the size of Jira or
It's like
Confluence, but
consumption based, or they switched to how they.
I don't think there's anything. Though they might be something that will. They are some features that are consumption based,
Okay.
but specifically assets. But they set the bar so high that I'm not sure they're going to catch a lot of customers that have to go from like a premium to an enterprise level, so they no longer have those limits, or the limits are high enough that they're going. I don't remember the exact thing, but I think it was like 50,000 assets before you have to start paying an additional premium. And I guess that would be considered, consumption based.
Okay.
Um, Automations and the number of automation rules, they had already done that about a year ago. I think they may have tweaked it in this one, but I don't remember for sure. So I probably should just look it up, but I started to, and then I started talking, and I can't do three things at once. So
Well, I mean, they did say that their new pricing was reflecting the value of their new features. So I'm excited to see kind of like these features that are coming. But do you think the added cost is worth it, especially for teams that use these tools pretty heavily?
So that's kind of a loaded question. I do think it's worth it. And one of the things I tell a lot of my customers, and that'll say, and um, you know, uh, when we're talking about things like this, and it comes up, is that the Atlassian tools are not that expensive. And if you have I don't know, if you have a corporate memory that goes back to what you used to be paying for these types of tools just 10, 12 years ago, you used to be paying a company like IBM or HP thousands of dollars per user per year for these type of tools, and now you're only paying a couple $100 per user per tool, depending on what tier you're on. But even the most expensive tier is a fraction of what software development tools used to cost, a decade ago. And so there's appetite to be able to pay more. Now nobody likes a price increase, but in the grand scheme of things, these tools are still very inexpensive. Now, if you start adding on a lot of add-ons or plugins, from the marketplace to these tools, the bills do get more pricey, but you're still under what budgets used to be, in the 2000s. Um,
That's a great point.
so if you're comparing it to competitor tools, Atlassian still comes out as the better deal. So there's a lot of up and coming. There seems to be another, 4 or 5 competitors for Atlassian, especially Jira, Agile management, and stuff like that every year. But they typically
now they added editing too. They added video and all kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, with the Loom. It's a lot of these things are separate SKUs, separate line items that you have to pay for. They don't necessarily all get folded into the base tool. Some of them do, but most of them are.
Vision of kind of like where they're going with it, though. You're kind of seeing this like suite that they're trying to create, which is really impressive.
Yeah, but if you're looking at the price increase for the Atlassian tools and you're not happy about it, there's dozens of competitors for each one of these products, but the price points aren't really there. You're not going to save money by jumping from the Atlassian tools to one of these competitors, and none of the competitors have the suite that Atlassian has. So there's really it was not risky, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for Atlassian to raise their prices. Slightly risky to take some of the features that were expected in standard and remove them and put them in higher tiers. That's going to annoy and piss off more customers. But again, it's not that much of a price increase. It is the third, maybe fourth year in a row that they've done a October price increase. So how many more years in a row can they do this and still have the customers tolerate it? I think there's probably a few more years. And if they're not doing giant price increases each year, they can probably do a price increase every year.
And there's a transition period too, right? Like they don't have to switch right over. I don't think there's a grace period. I think.
Oh, you mean they don't have to jump up to the other tier immediately?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they can take. I guess you can take time to understand like how you're going. So I think that's another thing that's cool about this Atlassian change is that even though there is a price increase, they're not like shocking you with it. So I think that's a really interesting.
They're not shocking you hard, but they are giving you a tingle. Yeah.